How's it going, everybody? It truly is great to be alive. So, today's my birthday, and I just like to talk about some of the things just off the top of my head as we go and sit in this very present moment of now. Thank you for being here. So, in the last 38 years of being alive, if there was anything I could say to someone to try to educate them in a way of where it was righteous judgments, good discernment, the best thing I could say is this right here. When you start off in life, you don't know who you are. And you think, at first you know who you are, though, when you're a baby. And then you remember who you are and you remember where you're from. And if you've got wise parents, and what I mean by wise and knowledgeable is you have parents that might understand to take a look and take a step back and analyze the children and the things they say. Try to let that child be themselves in the most natural form. And the more you do this, you will begin to see not only yourself in the purest form, but you'll see that your child is intelligent. It is another form of intelligence. Now, everyone's different to the form of intelligence, as opposed to what one might qualify intelligent. Just because of the fact you're passing tests and all these other things doesn't mean one's intelligent. I know families that birth strong workers. And they're not just workers, that's a title. What I mean by strong workers is these people are heavily disciplined. They're birthed with ironclad muscles and strength beyond all measures. And sometimes they're not rectified or recognized for who they are within society that gives them their specific nobility, which is their family name. So each family name holds specific attributes to themselves that truly defies their nation of self, almost their purpose and their will designed by the creator and their archetype of who they are. People can change and flicker in out of archetypes and maybe even change their personality. But when it's your child, it's you and all your ancestors and an individual that's older than you. So really, you are your father and mother, but you're that war or whatever that ancestry had led behind, and whatever we can accept and make peace with. I'm going to watch this video too. It's probably going back to lineages of where we have ancestors. And by the way, like, even as I speak, these things can be the truth and the absolute truth, but they're only truth by the people that meet that on their level of understanding and gnosis. But yet there's an expansion of consciousness every time this is spoken in. Whether it's your truth or my truth, this is the truth right now for the version of me right here, right now. As opposed to anybody else who could be listening, and it might not be their truth. This might be a nation it's another nation now, another universe, a different father, a different momentum. And so, in fact, I'm going to speak into that because by the time the child starts to forget who he is, that's where he starts to make up who he is based off our projection of reality. And so between the parents and their past and their family and their tales get projected into the mind's eye and then hijacks the imagination and turns each suggestion into a strong belief system, which then makes it real. So the more that we accept ideas of reality so strongly, we lose the basis of innocence. Innocence. So what's innocence? Well, most people would say it's purity and all these things. But truth be told, innocence is really that no one can really do anything wrong. They're just passing through this human experience, not making mistakes, but learning lessons. And how we learn those lessons, maybe even through past experiences and how we treated people through their lessons, is how now we feel always being treated and now treat others while we're teaching them or delivering and passing down the whippings out of the whipping tongue. And I learned that, so when children are taking on this, they're now learning a different creature of identity, the protective agent. Because when you're a child, you're innocent and vulnerable, and it's based off the ones that are around you in classrooms and teachers and even your parents starts to create the outer layer of defense mechanisms. And just like in a classroom, you have students that listen and follow direction. Yay! Those are the people that become doctors and the ones that are lawyers and lawmakers, but they, no offense, don't think for themselves. They think according to the law of what they've been told is law. But if you look at the students that didn't exactly go with the grain, they were either labeled a disorder, attention deficit disorder, or they have this lack of focus, and so they immediately, their emotional body and their thought process is being ignored and labeled as a disorder, which I think is a psychological actual implication within society as a means to control and dissect and divide people. If it's not politics, it'll be classes and genders and stereotypes in school. Jocks, hicks, freaks, the list goes on towards what they try to do to create the human narrative of how we should look at each other. And then you graduate these people out into human civilization, and there you go. Recess has now been permanent. We have a permanent recess going on. I don't know if anybody's ever been to jail, but it's just like basically elementary school, but without the teacher. And I couldn't even believe it. So, and not that, it was great that, whatever, I'm not ashamed of the things that I've done. So my point that I'm trying to make is that, in 38 years, recognize your child, that your child's going to be a human being as they are, as they grow up. And you can't mold them. Pay attention to their feelings more than their thoughts. You can mold thoughts, but it's hard to mold emotion. And when you're ignoring emotion, you're ignoring their soul, believe it or not. And so when people, and I know that sounds crazy, but through the experiences that I've had, I've ignored a lot of my emotions. And you know what happened? I started to ignore other people's. And the way that other people treated me by ignoring my emotions, the same thing was delivered. So 38 years, take care of your mind and how you treat your children, because your children will eventually treat you the same way. And I know it's going to sound messed up, but it's the truth. Because if you're not trying to rectify and take accountability, neither will your kids. And if you scapegoat your kids, they might take accountability, but then they're going to turn around and hold everybody else to the same standard you did. So now you got a kid walking the line, labeled the bad guy, trying to do everything he can to earn everyone's approval. But the only approval that matters is the kid. The kid should be able to approve of himself. He should feel good about himself. You know what I'm saying? But you don't have to believe me. And also, the stones that we throw are the stones that we're throwing at ourselves. And but those are informations I've said 1,000 times within the enlightened wheel of life. But it's lessons for myself too. So December 1st, 2021. It's a beautiful day today. I actually really am enjoying my birthday. I got some beautiful, loving stuff. As far as like love from my family and friends, and you can see who really loves you in times of where you're appreciated beyond most measures, and that love is something that is worth like always putting the extra amount into next. Even if it might even hurt, it just doesn't matter. And never look back on the love Well, hold on now. You can't say never look back, because I've said this before and then I'm always forced to look back. So, accept the past. Accept the past. And accept every action as you do it without vanity, without emptiness. Do it all with meaning. And that meaning will be followed through in love. Well, I definitely love everyone, and the more that I become enlightened, I can see deeper into people's soul. And on these implications, when you first begin to go back towards the part where you remember who you are, it's a deprogramming effect from where we grew up to go back to a childlike state where, I had to forgive myself for falling. I'm starting to realize within the self, and this is, why do I feel... See, I'm realizing something. I'm speaking, see 11:11, that as I go to speak my testimony, okay, within my own self, that I need to have a limitation on it based off the perception of other people and their belief and how they're going to receive me, of what's true and what's not. And then I know what the implications are of the ideas of truth beyond half-truths, thesis and antithesis. But as I face fear with love, unconditional love and understanding inside myself, by one, facing my ego that Yeshua, Jesus Christ, truly existed, is the Son of God, and did die for my sins, and I believe in him to be the Son of God, and every fundamental principle, and then those within myself made my ego drop. And then there's measures of where you see Christ in you, and then you in him, and always knowing to kind of know your role, that Jesus Christ was the only person that came on the scene and started calling himself God. If you think about it, other people have, and there's other implications and emulations, and I'm not even going to say that you can sit there and call those people Antichrist and not Antichrist. What I learned is that the people who call people that are the actual people who do it. So if I call you a Satanist, then I'm the Satanist. If I judge you, I'm actually what I am. So then you think of the idea of a Christian. What is a Christian? And I don't think that's what Yahushua came to push. Yahushua Mahashiach. And then when they question him being God, he's like, didn't you read Psalms where we're all God? But we're a God among gods, and gods among one God. So therefore, we're all God. All of us. There's one big giant body. The more that you dissolve the ego consciousness within yourself and deprogram, forgive yourself for taking in these things within the self, and you identify all the things within yourself as individual people, because why are these people in your life in the first place? All right, it's a good question when it comes down to some of the people that I know and that I hold to face value, because these people are still, some of them are still in my life, so therefore I didn't learn the lesson, or they're in my life for a reason. And yeah, I'm seeing things. It's got to do with my buddy KG. KG. Yeah, Kyle Gass. And so whatever. Yeah, worry too much. Break down those worry warts. Those things, find the sources, the roots, kill them. Love them. Nothing's even dead. There's already been too much war. The war outside of us is the war inside. The more we love ourselves and push that inside ourselves, the more that it'll reflect in the outside. The limitations that we place are the limitations that we place in ourselves, which are the limitations also being implicated in the person and what you're imagining. So break through those barriers with love and forgiveness. All ego. Trying to protect you. from your true self. So, it's karma. And some people are here on more righteous measures, but as I shine bright and look across the table, as always, with an equality between me, Yahushua, and God within me, and I within God, so therefore we are one. We're all one now. Then that means that it's not about wanting, it's about knowing and just seeing the highest implications of what it takes to get to where you gotta be. No matter how hard it is, I guess. Put in the work on top of the work on top of the work. So, I think I can have the life that I've ever wanted or lived that's no longer a dream but is a reality, if that makes sense. So, it's all happening. I see. You know, some people have things and it's about breaking through barriers, and then even though they get there, so they still know what they want. And it's kind of the same thing with me. You know, I have to realize I'm being tested. What do I really want? And I do flicker. And then I also know what I once had. And so it's like, if you had those things, how would you treat it again? Totally, vastly different. And then you think, well, why do you want those things? Like, yeah, you're right. Why don't I want this? And then, you know, like success or being, and you could be extremely successful but alone because you're so high that people are intimidated. So you're shining, but you're not human to human. And to me, to be truly human is to see the hardest parts of humanity in myself, not the greatest, and then love those, which is loving myself. But that's the best advice I have for my birthday. And where am I at? Well, I'm learning to realize that I am the spirit of all. I'm the spirit of us all. And I am breaking down the barriers of identity and starting to recognize the difference between life and false life. By even recognizing the words are not real. The words are not real. Okay. So, in the process of now, I can feel the fabric of what I think is reality, which is a label itself, reality. Reality. It's a label. It's an experience. You become a word taking away the spirit of reality. I am reality. I am reality. Reality is me, and we're experiencing reality. There's a woman I met in my journey, and I deeply love her though, like so much so. And she's a Taurus, and I realize that these earth signs represent the structure and fixedness of Mother Earth. And she She is so that everlasting heavenly beauty within everything I could ever think of what it means to be Mother Earth. And honestly, yeah, she's an angel. She's truly an angel. An angel. An angel. So, December 1st, 20 minutes in. Thanks for tuning in. I love you guys.